Bir dakikanızı
Tamam.
rica edeceğim. Buyurun hocam. Sunumu da istediğiniz zaman açacağım.
Ben sadece dinliyorum.
Çok teşekkür ederiz. Çok teşekkür ederiz. Çok kıymetli Sema Tarsel hanımefendi, Uluslararası Hemşireler Konseyi Başkanı Sayın Annette Kennedy, Türk Hemşireler Derneği Başkanı Sayın Sevilay Şenol Çelik, Nurse Evaluation Platformu kurucusu Sayın Wendy Carroll, değerli oturum başkanlarımız, çok kıymetli hocalarım, meslektaşlarım, sevgili öğrenciler, Koç Üniversitesi Hemşirelik Fakültesi, Vehbi Koç Vakfı Sağlık Kuruluşları ve Sema Tarsel Hemşirelik Uygulama Eğitim ve Araştırma Merkezi'nin işbirliğiyle yaptığımız Hemşirelik Haftası sempozyumumuza hoş geldiniz, onur verdiniz. Değerli katılımcılar, öncelikle size webinarımıza ilişkin bazı kuralları hatırlatmak isterim. Bunları ekranda da görebileceksiniz. İkinci slayta geçelim. Geçemedin Çağlayan herhalde. Çok pardon. Evet, webinarda simultane tercüme yapılacaktır. Webinar süresince ekranınızda göreceğiniz interpretation kısmında etkinliği takip edebilmek için istediğiniz dili seçebilirsiniz. Türkçeyi seçtiğiniz takdirde Türkçe dinleyebileceksiniz. Webinar katılımcılarının mikrofonları kapalıdır. Sorularınızı sorabilmek için Q&A butonunu kullanınız. Her konferansın sonunda oturum başkanlarımız sorularınızı yöneltecek ve konuşmacılarımız cevaplayacaklardır. Webinarımız kaydedilmektedir. Webinar soru cevap bölümü dahil 2,5 saat sürecektir. Değerli katılımcılar, ben öncelikle Sayın Sema Tarsel hanımefendiye teşekkürlerimi belirterek başlamak isterim açılış konuşmama. Çünkü bu Covid döneminde de gördük ki iyi yetişmiş hemşirelere çok fazla ihtiyaç var. Özellikle de yoğun bakım hemşirelerine. Bundan yaklaşık yarım asır önce Türkiye'de yoğun bakım hemşireliği yetiştirmek üzere başlattığı çalışmaları, daha sonra SANERK gibi bir merkezin kurulması, Hemşirelik Fakültesinin kurulması ve bunlar dışında Türkiye'nin dört bir yanındaki başarılı hemşirelik öğrencilerine sağladıkları burslar ve diğer katkılar nedeniyle gerçekten mesleğimizin tanınmasında, çok iyi yerlere taşınmasında ve kaliteli hemşireler aracılığıyla topluma nitelikli sağlık hizmeti verilmesindeki bütün koşulsuz katkılarıyla yürekten teşekkür ediyoruz. Saygı ve minnet duygularımızı bir kez daha burada paylaşmak isteriz. Geçen yıl pandemiyle birlikte verdiği ekranda gördüğümüz mesajı ise bizi çok etkilemişti. O nedenle ben bu mesajı da bu yıl okumak isterim izninizle. Uzman, bilgili ve çağdaş hemşirelerimizin her zaman olduğu gibi bugün de bütün insanlarımıza ışık olmasını gururla izliyor. Hemşireler Günü vesilesiyle hepsine bir kez daha minnetlerimi sunuyorum. Sema Tarsel, biz de size saygı ve minnetlerimizi sunuyoruz. Var olun.
Teşekkür ederim. Ben de başarılarınızın devamını diliyorum. Bütün kalbimle.
Çok teşekkürler. Değerli konuklar, her yıl hemşirelerin varlık nedenlerini bir kez daha göstermek için çeşitli etkinlikler yaptığımız 12-18 Mayıs haftasında son 2 yıldır içinde bulunduğumuz pandemi kriziyle baş döndürücü şekilde geniş yelpazede değişen konuları gündeme alıyoruz. Amaç tüm dünyada, tüm sektörler için ciddi bir kriz olan, ancak odağında sağlık sektörünün olduğu bu olağan dışı koşullarda bir yandan bütün artan yüküyle sağlık hizmetlerini yürütürken, öte yandan Covid sonrası yapılanmada daha sağlıklı, daha eşitlikçi, daha adil, daha insan odaklı tasarımlarda hemşirelerin daha fazla katkılarının olabileceğini göstermek ve bu katkıyı vermekti. Bu da elbette hepimizi zihinsel ve fiziksel açıdan fazlasıyla yordu. Geldiğimiz noktada gördük ki tüm insanların sağlığını korumadan hiçbir ülkenin tamamen sağlıklı olması mümkün değildir. Bu bağlamda sadece hemşire olarak değil, toplumun bir bireyi olarak dünyanın her yerindeki hemşirelere Hizmetlerinden ötürü çok teşekkür ediyorum. Ancak ülkemdeki hemşirelerle ayrıca gurur duyuyorum. Onlar için çalışmaktan, onlar için mesai harcamaktan onur duyduğumu belirtmek istiyorum. Çünkü öylesine bir mücadele örneği verdiler ki eşi benzeri yok gerçekten. Türkiye'deki 1 milyonun biraz üzerindeki sağlık çalışanlarından 5 sağlık çalışanından birini hemşireler oluşturmaktadır. 218 bin hemşire yaklaşık 84 milyonluk bir nüfusa sahip toplumun sağlığını korumak için onurlu bir mücadele verdiler. Gelişmiş ülkelerle karşılaştırdığımızda 1000 nüfus başına 5-10 hemşire düşerken gelişmiş ülkelerde Türkiye'de bu rakam 2 idi. Yani Türkiye'deki meslektaşlarımız 5 kat daha, 10 kat daha fazla çalışarak bu alanda uğraş verdiler. 40 bin yoğun bakım ünitesi var Türkiye'de. Yoğun bakım yatağı var ülkemizde. Buralarda 20-30 bin arasında bir hemşire çalışıyor. Yani hemşire hasta oranına baktığımız zaman uluslararası standartların dışında Sağlık Bakanlığı'nın kendi standartlarını da karşılamamaktadır. Yaklaşık 20 bin yoğun bakım hemşiresi açığımız var. Yaklaşık 50 yıl önce bunu görüp yoğun bakım hemşireliği programlarının bu kurumda başlatılmış olmasından ayrıca ve bunlara devam etmekten ayrıca onur duyuyoruz. Ve bu arada atanmayı bekleyen 100 bin hemşire var. İşte Türkiye'deki hemşireler bu az sayıyla çok iş başardılar. Ancak bu hizmet karşılığında karar vericilere ve topluma da seslenmek isterim. Hemşirelerin de insan olduğunu, bir anne, baba, eş, evlat, anneanne, baba olduklarını unutmamak gerekir. Onların da hayatları, planları, ertelenmiş hayalleri vardır. İnsan odaklı sağlık sisteminin içinde hizmeti sunan insanların da fizyolojik, psikolojik, ekonomik, entelektüel ve sosyal gereksinimlerini karşılamak gerekir. Bu hafta boyunca tüm platformlarda yazılı ve görsel basın aracılığıyla bu sorunlara ilişkin çözüm önerilerimizi ilgili mercilerle paylaştık. Özellikle de özlük hakları, enfeksiyon kapma riski ve yaşamlarını kaybetmeye dikkat çektik. Covid'de yaşamın tüm alanı etkilendi ve eğitim de ciddi bir şekilde etkilendi. Türkiye'de 142 hemşirelik lisans programı var. Burada devam eden 66 bin öğrenci var. Ve bu yıl yaklaşık 12 bin hemşire, yeni hemşire sağlık ordusunda mücadele etmek üzere mezun olacak. Bu hemşireler yaklaşık 1,5 yıldır, yeni adaylar 1,5 yıldır klinik uygulama, istisna birkaç okul hariç yapamadan mezun oldular. Dolayısıyla bu yeni mezunlarımızın atamaları yapılırken, onlar işe alınırken bunun göz önünde bulundurulması ve onlara uygun eğitim programlarının planlanarak görev yapacakları kliniklere atanmaları çok yerinde, toplum sağlığı açısından önemli bir karar olacaktır. Covid sonrası e-öğrenme, simülasyon merkezleri, sanal uygulamalar, hibrit eğitim modelleri gibi yeni yaklaşımlarda artışlar olacaksa da hemşirelik eğitiminde bu yaklaşımların hiçbir zaman gerçek klinik uygulamanın yerini alamayacağını bir kez daha gördük. Hem öğrencilerimiz hem de öğretim elemanlarımız gerçek yaşamda uygulama yapmayı özlediler ve bunu yapmak istiyorlar. Özellikle de temel sağlık hizmetleri, evde bakım, kurum bakımı gibi alanlarda eğitimi herkes için ulaşılabilir ve eşit kılmak önemli oldu. Teknolojinin ülkeler ve bölgeler arasındaki eğitim uçurumunu artırmaması yönündeki stratejileri geliştirmek önümüzdeki en büyük işlerden bir tanesi. Covid tabii bu olumsuzluklarının yanı sıra bazı pozitif durumlar da getirdi yaşantımıza. Bunlardan bir tanesi, yıllardır hemşireliğin önemini göstermeye çalışırız. Hiç ulaşamadığımız, toplumun hiç ulaşamadığımız kesimleri bile hemşirelerin olmazsa olmaz olduğunu söylemeye başladı. İşte bu pozitif imaj ivmesini yukarıya doğru çekmek bizim sorumluluğumuz. Yine hemşireler teknolojiyle daha yoğun iç içe oldular. Telesağlığı ister istemez apar topar kendini telesağlığın içinde buldular ve ellerindeki teknolojilerle bunları uygulamak durumunda kaldılar. Bu nedenle bizlerin de teknolojinin üretiminde ve kullanımında katkılarını sağlayacak modellerle yetiştirmemiz önem kazandı. İşte bugünkü panelimizde Sayın ICM Başkanı Annette Kennedy, ki kendilerine çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Hiçbir zaman bu yönetimleri süresince dünyanın hiçbir yerindeki hemşireleri yalnız bırakmadılar. En azından Türkiye'deki hemşirelerle kaç kez birlikte olduklarının biz tanığıyız. Bunun için çok çok teşekkür ediyoruz size bir hemşire olarak. Covid'in bize verdiği dersleri daha detaylı paylaşacak. Sayın Wendy Carroll ise önümüzdeki en büyük yenilik olan dijital sağlıkta hemşirelerin vazgeçilmez rollerine doğru bizi götürecek. Her iki konuğumuza ve siz değerli katılımcılara çok çok teşekkür ediyorum. Ve elbette ki düzenleme kurulumuza bize bu ortamı sağladığı için onlara da çok teşekkür ediyorum. Hemşirelik haftasının son günlerine geldiğimiz bugün de dünyadaki tüm hemşireleri yürekten kutluyor. Bu uğurda hastalanmış olanlara şifa, hayatını kaybetmiş olanlara da rahmet diliyorum. Şimdiden verimli bir konferans olması dileğiyle sözü meslektaşım Sevilay Şenol Çelik'e bırakıyorum.
Teşekkür ederim Sayın Dekanım. Kıymetli Semahat Hanımefendi, Dekanımız, Sayın Kennedy, değerli meslektaşlarım, değerli katılımcılar ve sevgili öğrencilerim. Koç Üniversitesi Hemşirelik Fakültesi 2021 yılı Hemşirelik Haftası etkinliğimize hoş geldiniz. İyi ki geldiniz. Etkinliğimizin ilk konferansını Uluslararası Hemşireler Konseyi Başkanı Sayın Annette Kennedy ile başlatıyoruz. Sizlere Sayın Kennedy'nin kısa bir özgeçmişini paylaşmak istiyorum. Kennedy 4 yıl başkan yardımcılığı yaptıktan sonra 2017 yılından beri Uluslararası Hemşireler Konseyi'nin 28. başkanlığını yürütmekte. Sayın Kennedy 2017-2019 yılları arasında Dünya Sağlık Örgütü Bulaşıcı Olmayan Hastalıklar Bağımsız Yüksek Komisyonu üyeliğini yapmıştır. Ayrıca Nursing Now, Hemşirelik Şimdi kampanyası yönetim kurulu üyelik görevini yerine getirmiştir. Kennedy, bakanlık tarafından 2018-2021 yılları içinde İrlanda Sağlık Hizmeti Strateji Slate Care'ın Uygulama Danışma Komitesi'ne görevlendirilmiştir. Daha önce Avrupa Hemşireler Federasyonu Başkanı olarak görev yapmış ve Avrupa Parlamentosu, Komisyon ve Konseyinde aktif olarak karar alma süreçlerini etkilemeye yönelik çalışmalar yapmıştır. Hemşirelik lisans derecesine sahip bir hemşire ebe olup, kamu sektörü analizinde yüksek lisans eğitimini tamamlamıştır. Ayrıca İrlanda Kraliyet Cerrahlar Koleji'nde onursal üyeliği bulunmaktadır. Sayın Kennedy 19 yıl boyunca İrlandalı Hemşireler ve Ebeler Örgütü'nün mesleki gelişim direktörlüğünü yapmış ve aynı örgüt bünyesinde başarılı faaliyetler yürüten eğitim, araştırma ve kaynak merkezini kurmuştur. Sayın Kennedy, size 45 dakikalık sunum ayırıyorum. Saat 16'da sunumunuzu bitirirseniz memnun oluruz. Son 15 dakikada meslektaşlarımızdan katılımcıların soruları, katkıları olacaktır. Onları size yine sunacağız. Teşekkür ederim. Buyurun, sıra sizde.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that introduction. It's lovely to see all friends and colleagues. Good afternoon to everybody, and particularly to see you, Madam Arcel. It's so nice to see you again. I met you 2 years ago, I think, and
you as well.
Lovely time in Istanbul, and I hope to get back there. The only thing I'm sorry about is that this is not in person, that this is on Zoom, and I'm getting so tired of Zoom, I just want to meet people now. So it's lovely to see you. Thank you for all the work you do and all the support that you give to nurses in Turkey and to the university. It is so good to see you. So good afternoon to everybody.
Thank you.
All my colleagues and all my friends in Turkey. Happy Nurses Week. And I bring you greetings from the 27 million nurses worldwide. And to start with, I'd like to tell you a story that was told to me in Istanbul by a Turkish tutor of yours. I think you may remember her telling the story, and translating it from Turkish to English. I have shortened it, but the reason I'm telling it to you is that I have used it so many times across the world in so many different scenarios. And forgive me for actually shortening it so much, but it goes a bit like this. God sent his angels to earth to see what the elements made up the human race. And the angels came to the earth, and they were particularly wanted to know what the elements were, not just in the human race, but in the health professionals and in nurses. So they found the elements. They found the elements in the human race: oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and magnesium, and all the other elements. And when they came to nurses, they couldn't identify, they couldn't extract, and they couldn't quantify one element. And they were very confused. And they didn't want to go back and tell God that they had not done his work and that they had failed in their task. But eventually they went back and they said, you know, we have found the elements in all the human race, including the health professionals, but there's one element in nurses that we couldn't identify, we couldn't extract, and we couldn't quantify. And God said to the angels, you are right, my angels. There is one element in nursing that you cannot quantify, you cannot extract, and it's very difficult to identify. And that element is compassion. It is the essence of nursing. And that is a story that I have told all over the world. So I don't remember the name of your tutor that told me that, but you can let her know that it's a great, great story, and I have used it so many times because compassion is the essence of nursing. But now I will go to my second slide, please. I think you might remember this picture. These two pictures were taken when I was in Istanbul. Madame Marcel, you might remember this picture too, because we were all together at the symposium there. So I have a number of pictures of you and all of us, very happy pictures, and I'm so delighted to see you so well. So I thought it was a good idea to have these pictures to remind you. Can we have the next slide, please? I know that many of you know about ICN, but I think it's no harm to go through a little bit about the International Council of Nurses. It's over 130 nursing associations in that many countries worldwide. It's 120 years old. It's the largest and most widespread nursing organization in the world. It's the voice of nursing, and it was founded by three very visionary women from the United Kingdom, from Germany, and from America. And they had the idea that collaborating across the world between nurses, communicating between each other, sharing information, voicing their concerns in relation to socioeconomic welfare and, of course, the health of the population would be the right thing to do. And it was at a time when it was very difficult to get the vote for women. So it was about advancing the profession. And we have advanced the profession enormously over the last 120 years. We are now at advanced practice. We can prescribe, we can assess, and we can diagnose. And we can work in very many areas, in very many, from birth to death, from community to hospital, to hospice care, and to death. And we have seen in this pandemic that there will be no end to the pandemic. There will be no curbing of the pandemic without nurses. So I think that we have shown the world the value of the nursing contribution to healthcare. We'll have the next slide, please. We were excited last year. We had this was at the World Health Assembly when we had designated 2020 as the year of the nurse and the midwife. And of course, 2020 came and we had so many ideas, just not in each country, but in each region and in each, and globally. We had so many plans to showcase nursing, to show the work that nurses do, and to increase the profile. But of course, the pandemic came and that changed the whole world. It changed the way we behave. It changed the way we interact with each other. It changed the way that we deliver care. It changed the fact that we couldn't even go out for a walk. Everything that we took for granted was no longer. It changed a whole way of living. Next slide, please. And this is what we saw. When we started out on our journey, like all of you across the world, I see and started talking to our colleagues in China in January. And we started hearing a lot about what was happening in China. And from that on, we were hearing from all of our associations in Asia and bringing that information across to Europe. And then when we saw what was happening in Italy and Spain, we started sharing the information with other countries. And what we did was we started to update our associations with the information we were getting, not just from each country, but from each association and from the nurses, and then lobbying for support from the global organization and from governments. And we had a 12-point plan. You can see it, it's on our website. I know we shared it with all our national associations. The reason I see it and say it now, and you see it on the right-hand corner, is that it's still relevant today, and it'll be relevant in the years to come. It's about protecting nurses. It's about having infection control, education and measures. It's about occupational health. It's about support for physical and mental health of nurses. It's about ensuring that they have the right education. It's about ensuring that if they're out sick, that there is support for them in terms of funding. It is that 12-point plan will be as relevant next year and the year after as it is today. It was done by us with the information that we collected from the National Nurses Association to help them lobby their policymakers. Next slide, please. And as we went along during the year of 2020 and even further now into 2021, of course, everybody thought at that time, nurses can cope, but they can cope for 3 months, maybe 6 months, and then it was a year. And now we're into the second year and it's having dramatic effects on our world of nurses. And if you go clockwise in the circle, we're talking about the economic well-being, we're talking about mental health, we're talking about infections and death. We're talking about the vulnerability of the nurses and the protection needed for nurses. And as you see, I'm not going to go through all of the stats, but you can see them for yourselves and you know the statistics in your own country. 45% of the NNAs reported that they weren't getting compensation from the government. And that's very serious if you're talking about countries where they have no income and maybe they're the chief breadwinner for the family, then there's no money coming into the house. So that's very serious. It wasn't recognized in occupational health, and that was an awful lot of countries decided, oh, well, we don't know whether you got it in the hospital, in the healthcare facilities, or whether you got it in the home, and then we won't recognize it as an occupational health disease. There was that time, and that's September 2020, mental health distress was becoming a major factor because nurses were in situations where people were dying, where they were seeing family and friends dying, where they were seeing colleagues dying, where they were seeing friends committing suicide. And that was having a dramatic effect. And in fact, it's been now recognized by the WHO as mass trauma. And it is mass trauma for those health professionals that are facing this every day. You know, I can't imagine, I can remember even working in intensive care. I remember all the patients that died. I can remember every face. I cannot imagine how nurses today are working in those areas and with no relatives and no loved ones being beside the patients and them having to take the role of family, of carer, of friend, and of everybody. It is going to have an effect in the future on them, and we have to be aware of that. From an education point of view, from a support point of view, we have to be aware of that. Next slide, please. This was the 31st of March 2021, but this is only from 60 countries. No, sorry, back. Thank you, thank you. We estimated from our associations, because not every country is picking up accurate statistics on the number of deaths among healthcare workers, and particularly dividing it among the different professional grades. There are only a number of countries picking up accurate information, and that's very important. So we have estimated 3,100. We know that's an underestimate of the number of nurses that have died worldwide. We know that 10% roughly of all infections are among healthcare workers, and nurses, being 60% of that, have the brunt of those infections. Many of them will have long-term COVID. We estimate that currently there's up to 2 million have been infected with COVID worldwide. That is huge by any stroke of the imagination. That, you know, you cannot underestimate the effect that has on the workforce. And of course, you know, the contributing factors: lack of PPE, lack of infection control prevention, lack of support, and underinvestment. Next slide, please. I have said already about the psychological stress. We're hearing every day. Now we're hearing that it's up to 80 and 90% of our National Nurses Association are reporting stress of some description, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, whether it's grief, or whether it's burnout, but they are all experiencing stress of some description. The worry is that we have been hearing from our national nurses associations that many nurses may plan to leave the profession early. That is a real worry about what's going to happen in the future. Next slide, please. We went into this pandemic with 6 million nurses short right across the world. We now know from our own research in ICN that 4.7 million will leave the profession through retirement in the next 10 years, less than 10 years, in fact. And the aging population is mostly in Europe and North America. So that will affect us dramatically. Added to that, as I've already said, there is an estimate that about 10% of our current workforce, not people that are due to retire, but people will leave the profession early due to the effects of COVID-19. We could be looking at almost half the population of the current workforce not being in the service. It's, for me, it's a tsunami that's coming down the tracks and maybe worse than the pandemic we're now seeing. We did a report, Aging Well, and the idea behind this Aging Well was to retain the older nurses in the workforce, to try and retain, but give them different ideas for different initiatives for working, that they wouldn't be always on the front line, that they wouldn't be full-time, that they would be supporting the nurses, because we cannot afford to lose the knowledge base of those older nurses. And we need them. We need different ideas. We need investment in different initiatives to keep them in the workforce. I suggest that you look at that report. It's a short report, but it's a good report. Next slide. And so what did we do about it? Well, from the very start, we started collaborating and having webinars and sharing messages and sharing information across all of our associations across the world. We started putting up a specific website in relation to the information coming from the World Health Organization and different, I suppose, the initiatives that were working for countries and the initiatives that were causing problems. And getting the message out, we were constantly being asked by the media to talk about what was happening. It was our way of trying to get governments involved in supporting nurses, in providing more PPEs, in testing the frontline workers and the healthcare workers, and actually looking at counseling, in looking at support, in trying to invest in it. And now, of course, it was all about looking at the vaccinations, because many countries, as you know yourselves, are vaccinating their whole population, where many other countries haven't even vaccinated their health workforce. If we can't vaccinate our health workforce, we won't have a health workforce to treat the population. Next slide, please. Of course, we have to be working with the World Health Organization very closely, and we have been fortunate that even from the very start of my presidency, we've had a very good supportive Director General, Dr. Tedros. He has recognized always the value of the nursing contribution to universal health coverage, to universal health care, to curbing this pandemic. It cannot be done without nurses, and he has been one of our greatest supporters. It was, I suppose, his support that got us the year of the nurse and the midwife, and now has the year of the healthcare worker. Of course, we make up 60% of this year. In 2021 is the year designated as the healthcare worker. He also was supportive of us bringing out the report on the state of the world's nursing, which I will talk about shortly. And of course, now the strategy for nursing and midwifery 2021 to 2024. Next slide, please. Let me know when I have 5 minutes to go, because I'm terrible for talking. COVID-19 vaccinations. And I've said already that, and it's been said by the World Health Organization and by different agencies, that there is a moral failure if we don't look at how we distribute the vaccines, how we don't share the vaccines with the poorest countries in the world. We saw that the pandemic is not isolated to any one country. It doesn't recognize borders, it doesn't recognize cultures, it doesn't recognize, it moves. There is nothing that we've seen, there is nothing anybody can do about the movement of a virus across the world. So we have to protect the whole world. We have to work as a global fraternity, a global organization, and protect everybody. So for us in ICN, our priority is lobbying to see that healthcare workers, that are nurses, are protected the world over, not just in any one country. Next slide, please. As I said, the State of the World's Nursing Report. The State of the World's Nursing Report was brought out in April 2020. I suggest for everybody, every nurse, I know that people don't have time, but even for all our young nurses, read the recommendations, even if you have no time to do anything else. The recommendations are, this is the first ever State of the World's Nursing Report. 191 countries contributed to it, and so did our National Nurses Association. It's not perfect, but it's the best that we've gotten. We have to build on it in the future. It's about investing in nurses, investing in colleges, investing in training, investing in retention of our workforce, allowing nurses to work to their full competence, and particularly when we're talking about specialists and advanced practice. It's about nurses being involved in policy. You know, it's extraordinary to see that even in this pandemic, we are the people who carry out the actions, but we're not the decision makers, and that's not acceptable. And it's about leadership. It's about leadership in nursing. That, you know, and what I see nurses and I advise nurses to do if they're talking to policymakers is to share, as you already said, that you're short of nurses, to share the differences between countries, because there's a profile, and it's a one-page profile on every country. And if you share that, but you have to show them where you're at and where other countries are at that you want to get to. Next slide, please. You all remember that Nursing Now started as a campaign, a 3-year campaign. It was built on the all-party parliamentary group in the United Kingdom, who came out with a tripartite recommendation. that if you invest in nursing, you invest in global health, and that in turn improves gender equality, and that leads to better economic growth. Of course, you know, for me, it's very simple. Investing in the population's health is an investment in economic growth. It's just as simple as that. We saw how the world closed down their countries because they were concerned about the health of the population, particularly they were worried about the economy. And they have invested billions. We've borrowed billions right across the world to try and curb the pandemic. We would be better investing in healthcare, and I hope we learn for the future. Next slide. Just on one thing about that, it's finishing in May of this year, the campaign. It was a very successful campaign. It'll finish in May. The leadership, the Nightingale Leadership Challenge, will continue for 2 more years, supported by Burdett Trust. We will take over all the different groups with outside in every country throughout the world that has been set up, and we're already working, and we've started working on that in January of this year. Next slide, sorry. This was the independent panel on preparedness, pandemic preparedness. This was the second report, but the final report is now out. It was launched on the 12th of this month. And I would suggest that we all read that report. It will be brought to the World Health Assembly, which is at the end of this month, beginning of June. And it very much states that we need to do better. There will be other pandemics and we need to be better prepared. And it talks about investing in pandemic preparedness. That the next report very much identifies the need to invest. And that for us is important because nurses are very involved in public health, infection and prevention control, in primary care, in all of the areas where we try to get in early to prevent infection rather than treat it when you're in hospital. So it's all about that. There's a lot about how the World Health Organization should operate and how countries and the failure of countries to recognize that the pandemic was coming across the world, and they did. We didn't, I don't think anybody took it seriously until it arrived in Europe. Next slide. We were looking at the amount of people that are unemployed. And as you know, they're unemployed in the retail sector, they're unemployed in catering sector, they're unemployed in various sectors across the world, some that will never probably start up again. Some people will have lost their jobs. And we looked at this as the places that need the investment in more jobs is healthcare. So we said, well, what about looking at all of the people who have lost their jobs and have health education retraining opportunities? And that's why we call them HERO. If we retrain talented people, there'll be people who have all sorts of experience, that have degrees, that have expertise in various areas. And we should be looking at training opportunities for those people and different ways of getting them on the ladder to the health workforce, whether it's healthcare assistants, whether it's nurses or whatever. But it can be done, but we need an investment, whether it's private-public partnership or whatever, but there needs to be an investment. But it can work. All we have to do is look differently at it. But that takes government to support this. Next slide. How am I doing for time? This
15 dakikamız var.
Sorry?
You have about 15 minutes.
Okay, perfect. I'm perfect. Yeah, I can. I have these 3 slides, and these are important because these are taken during the pandemic. As you can see, there's masks on and there's different initiatives. Nurses all over the world try to change the models of care to suit what's happening, and they do it very successfully, only they do it silently. And what we're trying to do is to build on all of these case histories. And just the other day, we linked with the BBC, who are going to look at some of the case histories and follow them through within country and do programs on them, which will be very good for nurses. And I'm saying this to you in Turkey because I think that you can submit case histories to the ICN that we can look at and see. There have to be something different. It has to be something unusual, something that can be rolled out in other areas. But nurses have great ideas, and I heard you even talking when in the introduction, Aisha, about information technology and e-health and all of that, which is huge of the future. The first picture up there is of exercise for handicapped children and adults. The one down below is a nurse actually giving information to the general public. As you can see, she's been interviewed on a radio station. And the one on the right is a nurse, an advanced practitioner nurse in Hong Kong, who is diagnosing, prescribing and treating patients with strokes and getting in very early so that they have less disability when this happens. Great, great ideas. Next slide, please. And as you can see, this is, the top one is in community. It's actually in Australia. That was taken before COVID, and it's about bringing out primary care and assessments to a general population, taking their blood pressure, taking their temperature, taking blood glucose levels and all of this, and getting in there very early on. And we have that in many, many countries throughout the world, even in America, where they're going into areas like the Appalachian Mountains, where they're in Walmart, they're providing clinics, because where do people come mostly? And that's to shopping centers. Can get a great clientele in a shopping center. And then you have nurses looking after patients, midwifery patients, and then you have children, of course, early intervention with children with asthma, with all sorts of respiratory disorders. Next slide. This is where we engage with the UN and WHO. And we have to do this. We're constantly trying to lobby various global organizations. And we have been doing this all through the pandemic. And we will continue to do it after the pandemic and after we have curbed the pandemic, hopefully, and hopefully very soon, because we all need, you know, to know that it will be over. And this is the World Health Organization, but we also work with the UN, we work with the International Labour Organization, we lobby the G20 and the G7, and we work with the our own professional organizations like the World Medical Association, the World Dentistry Association, and the World Physiotherapy Association. We work with those. We all try to combine statements and general general work together where we want similar outcomes. And of course, the next, we go to the executive meetings and to the World Health Assembly, and we make interventions in all sorts of areas. The World Executive Board meeting is held in February. The World Health Assembly meeting, as I said, is end of May, June. It's usually early May, but this year it's end of May, June. And then we have our triad meetings, which is between the International Council of Midwives and the World Health Organization. And then we have all sorts of NGO partners, like the Commission on the Status of Women, the Women in Global Health, JPIGO, and many, many others. So it's a constant work with not just nursing organizations and not just in nursing. One of the things that Lord Nigel Crisp has always said to me, stop talking to yourselves. Nurses are always talking to themselves. You have to stop talking to yourselves. So that's what I'm trying to do. Next slide, please. Yeah, we're one of the earliest organizations to be in official relations with the World Health Organization. And it does give us a lot of opportunities to talk about different agendas, not just the COVID response, but, health doesn't stop, and the conditions that we need to respond to don't stop. Immunization, global patient safety, mental health preparedness, all of those issues throughout the world. And of course, non-communicable diseases like diabetes and chronic respiratory disease and cancers, all they continue, and nurses still have to continue to give care in those situations. Next slide, please. Sorry for having so many slides, but I figured the picture, sometimes remains in your subconscious. This is the draft WHO strategic direction for nursing and midwifery, which we need adopted at the World Health Assembly this month, the end of this month, early June. It's based on the State of the World's Nursing Report. And of course, we have a policy direction for education, jobs, practice, and leadership. And it's based on the evidence that has come forward through the State of the Nursing World Report. And of course, what we need is, in relation to education, we need competence, we need graduates, we need data, we need quality, we need to have the level of education, because we're not talking about any one country, we're talking right across the world. Thank you. Jobs, of course, I've said about jobs, we have shortage of jobs, but not just we have a shortage, we have a maldistribution of jobs. And you can see it in countries where you have, and particularly I'm talking about South African countries or African countries, where you have unemployed nurses, but they need them, but the health department is not investing in them. So you have unemployed, but they're short of nurses. It's crazy. Or else you have nurses who are working in cities, but are not working in the country areas. And that causes a lot of, and of course I said, they migrate, if they're not getting better conditions, they migrate to higher income countries. And nobody is making the effort to retain them in their own countries where they're needed most. Evidence, scope of practice. We know that we have expanded our scope of practice. We need to be allowed to work to that scope of practice. So we need regulations and we need standards. Gender, and of course, we have very few government chief nurses. We need more government chief nurses. But we not just need government chief nurses, because the WHO came out that we had 70% of countries we had chief nurses. But from our estimation, only 50% of them are actually working in or with government, and very few of them have actually been involved in policy. If you look at the task force for COVID, if you look at the strategic committees for COVID, if you look at the media briefings from COVID, nurses are invisible. So we have to change that. Okay, next slide, please. Two things. One is that leadership programs. We have a global nursing leadership program, which we run every year. We can only take around 30, but we're trying to extend that because this time we had it in line. So we're going to change that. Many of the nurses that have gone through that program have ended up in executive positions. Some of them have ended up as chief nurses, but they have, many of them have ended up in in executive nursing positions. So it's a great program. We have a program, Leadership for Change, which is has kind of been slowed down during COVID, but we will be picking it up again. And of course, we're calling constantly for government chief nurses in every country. We need them badly, and we need them at the same level as the chief medical officers. And we brought out our International Nurses Day Guide on the 12th, Nurses of Voice to Lead, a Vision for Future Healthcare. It's well worth your while looking at that. A lot about case histories, a lot about the economics and the value of healthcare, and a lot about a vision for the future. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is, it's always important.
Kennedy, you have last 5 minutes.
Good. Okay, fair enough. I can do 5 minutes. Thank you so much. This is WHO, and this is where you can imagine that's not the World Health Assembly. That's just a meeting, and that's just a meeting that I'm giving you a picture of the Non-Communicable Disease Commission. So you're one person trying to make, an impact on 40 other people around the table. So that's just to show you that everything, you have to fight very hard. Next slide, please. These we have to take care of, the future of our profession. We have to bring them in to the policy making, to the strategic leaving. We have to show them where policy is developed and everything else. And we have to start it early. And for you that's in education, I say we start it early in their curriculum. They're great. I have met so many students all over the world, and they are so enthusiastic and they want to make changes and they have great ideas. Let's try and support them, and let's try and give them every opportunity to bring them forward. I believe in them. I have great respect for them. And I think from what I see, the future is in safe hands with our student nurses. They're great. Thank you. Next slide, please. ICN 20 and 20 beyond, it's not just ICN, it's about everybody. It's about empowering nurses. It's about supporting healthcare. It's about making a better future for all. And we can all do it together. 27 million of us can do it. This year, although we've had COVID and although the pandemic, if I've seen two things that have worked very well, and that's using IT more successfully, using our communications methods more successfully. And I have seen that we have been closer together with all our family of nurses than I've ever seen before. I've had more conversations with all our family of nurses than ever. Next slide, and I'm finished. And this Greta Thunberg, who is one of my models, I look at her and I think a little girl from Sweden at 16 sat outside with a placard outside the government buildings, and now she's the most recognized face in the world of climate change. And her comment or her mantra is, you are never too small to make a difference. I say that to every single nurse throughout the world. You are never too small to make a difference. And finally, our final slide. Congress, 2nd to the 4th of November, CNR is early October, the first week in October, and it will be around the world tour. I suggest that we see Turkey in that tour. Thank you very much, and thank you for listening.
Teşekkür ederim Sayın Anette. Öncelikle şunu ifade etmek istiyorum. Türk Hemşireler Derneği 1949 yılından beri ICN'e üye bir dernek. Ve pandemi öncesinde de pandemi sırasında da sizlerle bilgi ve deneyim paylaşımlarında bulunduk. İşbirliğimiz iyi şekilde devam ediyor diye düşünüyorum. Sayın Anet de bizlerle pandemi sürecinde dünyadaki hemşirelerin istihdamıyla, aşılanmayla, Nursing Now, bizim derneğimizin Türkiye'nin de katkı verdiği 2020 Hemşirelik yılı raporunu ile ilgili kapsamlı bilgiler verdi. Teşekkür ediyorum. Yalnız değiliz, onu ifade etmek istiyorum. Dünya hemşireleri yaşadıklarıyla bizim yaşadıklarımız aynı hemen hemen. Şimdi size sorular ve katkılar var. Onları sırayla sormaya başlayacağım. Birrim Bulut Çepli. Sayın Anette Kennedy'nin değerli paylaşımları için teşekkürler. Konuşmasının başında aktardığı şefkat elementi gayesi Türkiye'nin ilk hemşirelik okulu olan Amiral Bristol Hemşirelik Okulu Müdürü Sayın Gülsevin Çeviker'e aittir, diyor. Gelelim sorularımıza bakarsak sırayla soruları okumaya çalışacağım. Evet. Sunumunuzun çok anlaşılır, çok iyi olduğunu söylüyor Sayın Kulakaç. Dekanımızın bir sorusu vardı. Onu bulmaya çalışıyorum. Sayın Kennedy, eğitim kurumlarına ve eğitimcilere önerileriniz ne olur? İsterseniz cevaplayın, daha sonra diğer sorulara geçebilirim.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a rather large question. You know, it's difficult for educators, I think, right now. Particularly, and I heard you say at the very beginning that students, you know, and their clinical participation has been slowed down. That's the same in every country in the world. And you know, one of the things that I worry about is that students have been put into situations very early on. They have probably been experiencing something that nobody of their age and status and inexperience should have had to experience without support. That I think that they will need your help. I think they will need your counseling. I think that don't underestimate what they have been through. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is that, and I think that you're probably already doing it and aware of it, and that technology is excellent. And I see great ideas coming from young nurses about how to use applications for patients, how to use applications for communicating between themselves. And particularly because I heard some time ago about nurses that don't like to be out in remote areas, in areas where they have no support, but that an application where they can link to another colleague, to another area that can give them advice and that they can feel that they can contact and get support. I think they are great, you know, and I see a lot of applications that young nurses are better at doing for children, for, you know, when they have problems with, you know, diabetes or different conditions. You cannot beat young nurses for knowing what's best, how best to work with them. And of course, I would say politics. Please, please, please start your students, start your educators very early in politics. I did it myself very early, not knowing what I was doing, but I thought that I should introduce them to, you know, not just the director of nursing, but the chief, the CEO of the hospitals, the CEO of the region, the financial director. I had them go to the parliament, and, you know, you have to do things like that, because you have to tell them, you know, just expecting things to happen doesn't work that way. They have to try and use the opportunities. They have to make it happen, but you have to show them the way. I don't know if that helps, but that's some of the suggestions.
Teşekkür ederim Anetta. Diğer bir sorumuz da Abraham adlı bir katılımcımız. Is there any experience that nurses used models such as health promotion model in the hospital or community level to promote health of individual or communities related with COVID-19? The presentation is amazing. Thank you.
I'm not sure, was the question that are there education programs for infection control?
Yok, sağlığın geliştirilmesi modeli var mı? Hastanelerde bireysel ya da topluma yönelik sağlığın geliştirilmesine yönelik herhangi bir model var mı kullanılan?
Yes, there are. Exactly, there are. All over the world, there are. People have been developing health promotion models, people that are in that kind of area. Yeah, if you need to find out, contact the office, probably particularly David Stewart, and he will help you link up with other areas that are doing this. Does that answer the question?
Teşekkürler. Bir başka katılımcımız da Bağda Gül Hanım. Kennedy çok güzel bir sunumdu. Merak edilen konulardan biri yaşanılan bu pandemi süreci sebebiyle hemşirelik önde gelen mesleklerden biri oldu. Yurt dışında hemşire olarak çalışma imkanları nasıldır? Tabii biz bunu çok istemiyoruz. Ülkenin ihtiyacı varken başka ülkelere gidilmesini arzu etmiyoruz.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because on the one hand, you want not to stop nurses getting experience, or you don't want to stop nurses from travel, because and I say it from my own country. Irish nurses traveled all over the world. They wanted to travel, but what you wanted them to do is to come back. What I don't like to see is countries aggressively recruitment from other countries who need their nurses badly. I think one of the issues for all countries, and particularly, and I say that for my own country as well as your country, is to find ways of actually incentives to keep the nurses in country. And I don't think that we're doing that very well in any country throughout the world. And it's hard work, because we have seen what has happened in relation to the way the government have appreciated nurses by clapping and by telling them we're wonderful, but we don't see much action, and we don't see the investment, and we don't see the suggestion that they're going to increase the salaries, or that they're going to value the workforce they need most, to the backbone of the healthcare workers. We have to really work hard to make them believe that they cannot do without us. So it's going to take all our efforts, everybody's efforts, but we need to include civil society, we need to include public representatives, we need to, it cannot be just done by ourselves, but we have to do it, we have to do the work. I believe we can do it, but we have to do it if we want to, retain our nurses. We have to give them more, we have to invest in them, we have to appreciate them. I don't think sometimes we appreciate them, not us. I mean, in general, they're not appreciated.
Teşekkür ederim. Bir başka sorumuz da aşıyla ilgili. Many countries have difficulties in getting the vaccines. How much can ICN help? Aşı ulaşımıyla ilgili birçok ülke zorluk çekiyor. ICN nasıl yardım ediyor?
We have been calling for that on the media, mainly in the media outlets. We've been working with the World Health Organization. We've been calling with the G20, the highest echelons of governments who make the decisions about this. And trying to make them understand that unless they vaccinate the healthcare workers or the nurses, who will look after the public? There will be nobody to look, and particularly if we're looking at India right now, they need all to be vaccinated. They are going through a terrible time. And, you know, countries are very selfish in the way that they're handling vaccines. We talk about multilateralism, and we talk about globalism, and we talk about humanitarian efforts. But when it comes down to it, all countries, and I'll include my own in that, are selfish, and they want to vaccinate their whole population rather than share. But we keep, you're asking, what do I see and done? Every day we're making the case, every day.
Teşekkür ederim. Bir sorumuz daha var. Merhaba. Öncelikle sizler başta olmak üzere katılımcı arkadaşlar ve öğrenciler, hemşireler haftamız kutlu olsun. Konuşmanızda eğer hemşirelere yatırım yaparsanız global sağlığı yatırım yapmış olursunuz denildi. Sizce Türkiye'deki hemşire öğrenciler ve saha çalışanları dahil doğru ve sağlıklı yatırım yapıldığını düşünüyor musunuz? Sizce ülkemizdeki sağlık globali gelişmesi için neler yapmalıyız? Teşekkürler.
The short answer is no, I don't think there's enough investment in nurses. I definitely don't think there's enough investment. What can you do? I hate to tell you that it's a hard road. It's a hard road ahead. I'm impressed by what you have said about how much you have done. I'm impressed by how much you have got support from Madam Arsal. I'm impressed by how much energy you are putting into this. But I have to say, it will be a constant challenge. It will be a constant challenge for all of us. We will give you any support that you need in actually lobbying your government or anything like that. But I suggest that you use the State of the World's Nursing Report, and that you use, when it's adopted, the actual strategic policy for 21 to 24, that you use that, because if the governments sign up to that, then you can call them to account. You call them to account to say, you actually signed up to this. It's up to you to implement what you have signed up to. But it's a constant challenge, and it will be a fight. There's no doubt in my mind. I worry a little bit about the fact that countries have borrowed billions, and that we will be fighting for our place in the pot of money.
Teşekkür ederim. Son bir teşekkür okuduktan sonra isterseniz oturumumuzu bitirelim. Sizi de çok yorduk. Aslında çok fazla teşekkür var. Çok fazla sorular var. Ayşe Ferda Ocakçı hocamız Saner pandemi sürecinde kısa online kurslar ile hemşirelerimize bilgi desteği vermeye devam etti. Gerçekten hemşireler kendilerini geliştirmede çok istekliler. Sunumunuz için teşekkür ederim diye mesaj yazmış. Semahat hanımefendi, sizin ilave edeceğiniz, katkı vereceğiniz herhangi bir şey var mı? Son sözü size veriyorum.
I'd like to thank Ms. Kennedy for the speech. I mean, it's the common problems all over the world. You know, I mean, we're trying our best in Turkey to survive. And I hope, I mean, our nurses, we have to thank our nurses from the bottom of our hearts. They have been working so hard. But if you talk about the world, I don't know what's going to happen in the world. Let's wait and see.
Yeah, you're
What's your
absolutely
suggestion?
right. Yeah.
Çok teşekkür ediyorum. Burada oturumumuzu bitiriyorum.
Well, we'll have to
İkinci
wait
konferansımıza geçeceğiz.
because this is a big surprise for the world, something very unexpected. There are rumors all over the world, you know.
Yeah.
What is true, what is not true, we do not know.
Yeah. Yes.
All our common health problems plus this, various problems made everybody very, very unhappy and very critical.
Yeah, yeah. But
Thank you very much for your speech.
thank you.
I wish we could meet each other.
Yeah,
I
yes,
hope the
we
next
will.
time.
We will. There'll be another time, Madam Ursula. There'll be another time. Thank you for having me, and I am proud to be a nurse. I'm proud to be a nurse more than ever this year and last year because of what I see nurses do. Nobody could do the work that they're doing. So thank you to all the nurses that are listening in Turkey, and it's been my pleasure.
Teşekkür ediyoruz. Sıra Kafi Hocam'da.
Tamam. Ben de
Çok
iyi
teşekkür
günler
ederim.
diliyorum.
Sayın Kennedy'ye. Sayın Kennedy COVID-19 ile ilgili hakikaten ne yapıldığını, mesleğimizin yaşadığı sorunları bize çok ifade etti. İkinci konuşmacımız biraz bizi onlardan uzaklaştıracak, gelecekte bizi neler bekliyor, ne olacak sanırım heyecanla onu dinleyeceğiz ardından. Ben öncelikle...
Ama onların da tam bilip bilmediğini bilmiyorum.
Evet.
The world is full of surprises. I don't know who knows what and who doesn't know what.
Çok haklısınız.
Full of surprises. We'll take
Sayın Semahat Hanım,
our measures and wait to see what's going to happen.
Evet, çok
Teşekkür
değerli
ederim.
Sayın Semahat Arsel Hanım, çok değerli konuşmacılarımız, Sayın Kennedy ve Sayın Carol, meslektaşlarım, sevgili öğrenciler. Ben de oturuma başlamadan önce hepinizin Hemşireler Günü'nü kutluyorum. Ben size şöyle başlamak isterim. Biliyorsunuz bilgi çağındayız. Aslında her an, her gün yeni bir bilgi, yeni bir teknolojiyle karşılaşıyoruz. Dolayısıyla bu bilimsel ve teknolojik gelişmeler her alanda olduğu gibi sağlık alanında da bir takım gelişmelere ve değişmelere yol açıyor. Ama bu değişim ve gelişim beraberinde kullanıcılara da sorumluluklar yüklüyor. Şimdi biz görüyoruz ki şu anki birlikteliğimiz bile bilişim teknolojilerinin bir ürünü. Okyanuslar ötesi konuklarımız var, bizi dinleyenler var ve biz bir arada bilişim teknolojileriyle bir araya geldik, sorunlarımızı ya da gelecekle ilgili planlarımızı paylaşıyoruz. Şimdi böyle düşündüğümüz zaman hemşireler sağlık sistemi içerisinde bilişim teknolojilerini kullananlar arasında sayıca da en büyük paya sahip olan sağlık çalışanları arasında yer alıyor. Ve dolayısıyla bilişim teknolojilerini kullanmak bizim hem bir gereksinimimiz hem de zorunluluğumuz. Yani öğrenmek de zorundayız, gerekliliğimiz de var. Aksi takdirde bir araya gelip o sorunlara çözüm üretemeyiz. Şu pandemide yaşadığımız sıkıntılara baktığımız zaman ortak çözüm arıyoruz bütün dünya ülkeleri olarak. Şimdi böyle baktığımız zaman hemşireler kaliteli, güvenli, sağlık bakımı vermek için eğitimde, yönetimde, kısacası her alanda bilişim teknolojilerini kullanmak durumunda. Kullanmasına da bu yenilikler beraberinde bize ne getiriyor? Hem rollerimizi hem de sorumluluklarımızı değiştirmemiz gerektiğini gösteriyor. Yaşadığımız her bir değişim yeni sorumluluk, yeni roller. İşte bizim çok değerli konuğumuz Wendy Carroll bize bu vazgeçilmez rollerimize parmak basacak. Ama ben sözü daha fazla uzatmadan kısaca Wendy Carroll'u tanıtmak istiyorum sizlere. Sayın Wendy Carroll 2012 yılında Amerika'da Walden Üniversitesi'nden hemşirelik bilişimi odaklı hemşirelikte bilim uzmanlığı derecesini almıştır. Sayın Wendy'nin Amerikan Hemşireleri Yetkilendirme Merkezi'nden bilişim hemşireliği sertifikası da bulunmaktadır. Sağlık Bilgi Yönetimi ve Sistemleri Derneği uzmanlık öğrencisidir. Editörü ve yazarı olduğu Hemşireler için Gelişen Teknolojiler, Uygulama için Çıkarımlar adlı kitabı ödüle layık görülmüştür. Şimdi genç ve heyecanlı olduğunu yüzünde de görüyorsunuz. Hakikaten çok enerjik görünüyorsunuz Wendy Hanım. Büyük veri destekli gelişen teknolojiler hakkında düzenli olarak yazdığı dergi olan Online Journal of Nursing Informatics'te kıdemli editör olarak da görevini hala devam ettirmekte. Sayın Wendy aynı zamanda hemşireleri insanların ve toplumların sağlığı için hemşirelik bakımı sunumunu en üst seviyeye taşımada yeni teknolojileri, ileri veri analitiğini ve inovasyon stratejilerini kullanma konusunda eğitmek için kurulmuş olan
Sağlık Bilgi Teknoloji Merkezi yani hemşire evriminin de kurucusudur. Sayın Wendy, heyecanla konuşmanızı bekliyoruz. Söz sizin.
Can you hear me okay? Great.
Evet.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Hello, everybody, and all the nurses around the world. I see we're 300 strong today, and it's so exciting. My favorite thing to do is to talk to student nurses and nurses who are practicing about technology, and I think you will get that from me. So thank you, and it's an honor to be here today at the start of your Nurses Week to address you about the essential role of nurses in a new digital health environment. As stated, I'm Wendy Carroll, and I'm the founder of Nurse Evolution. And I believe I was invited here today to your nursing celebration to speak to you because I'm a nursing big data advocate, as my purpose and passion are to add to nurses' knowledge about how we make a difference to patients and ourselves as nurses by using our nursing skills, knowledge, and technology, data, and innovation. With the breadth of experience I've had in the healthcare industry, really laser focused on digital health, which I'll explain a little bit more about. I've gained valuable insights into the benefits nurses bring to enhance patient care delivery and operations in our challenging healthcare and broken ecosystem. Harnessing the power of new technologies, I help healthcare organizations and nurses to embrace precision intelligence and focus on optimizing clinical practice and outcomes for patients, transform the patient experience, increase workplace efficiencies, promote health equity, and foster clinician and nurse well-being, which is never more important than it is right now. My purpose is to help nurses and leaders to understand better the connection of nursing knowledge and innovative healthcare IT, to utilize nurses to their full extent in critical technology projects, and to reap the benefits of nurses' invaluable mix of skills and respected talent, our trusted skills to encourage population health programs, reduce costs, and give patients and nurses a better experience. So with digital health, I'm an advocate of transforming health systems towards a more proactive systems focus on health and wellness. Digital health systems and using technology in practice, with that, nurses can transform care delivery to provide access to care within technology environments that support people and populations to self-manage their health and their wellness proactively. Fueled by digital technologies that will seamlessly interface with care teams who partner with people and nurses anywhere and anytime the care is needed. I'm a staunch believer that nurses are essential to the health of individuals and communities every day and will create the future of healthcare. So the definition of essential, the word is of, relating to, or constituting essence, being inherent and of the utmost importance. I'm of the steadfast belief that medicine and healthcare would be nothing without the knowledge and wisdom of nurses. I also embrace nurses' natural and learned abilities to use our innovative spirits in practice, which is so important in our current technologically driven world, and one that needs nurses to further the future of patient care in our profession successfully, to digitalize healthcare for the health and wellness of all individuals in society. As President Kennedy discussed, we are celebrating the International Nurses Week, your week, and day, and the theme is Nurses, a Voice to Lead, a Vision for Future Healthcare. And what does that mean to me? It means that nurses are the change makers who will build a path for what's next in all aspects of nursing. Direct patient care, supporting nurses' roles, nursing scholarship, research, and nursing education, and nurses who use technology, which means all of us. In the United States, we are also in the midst of celebrating our Nurses Month, put forth by the American Nurses Association. Our Nurses Month theme is Nurses Make a Difference. And the focus and actions of our celebration are to focus on the mental health and the physical well-being of nurses. Also to raise the awareness of the critical work nurses do by honoring nurse heroes, innovators, and leaders. We're also focused this month on continuing to study nursing scopes and standards of practice and promoting nurse contributions by engaging the public to teach them on what nurses do and encourage them to support current and future nurses. So I share these sentiments and I wish the same for you, and I will do the same today. So the message that I have for all of you nurses around the world is that as a nurse, you are essential, critical, vital to the health of all people, communities, and society today. As a nurse, you are healthcare forerunners and making a difference every day by using technology and digital health to improve health outcomes for patients and nurses. And as a nurse, you're more innovative in your practice than you may think, and you should learn to embrace your innovative spirit and practice in the present and in the future to create what's next. So I'll go a little bit into my story about why I became a nurse. As a young girl, I was fascinated by the medicine and the body. And that's what drove me to want to be a nurse and be hands-on in helping people live healthier lives. My great interests led me to join our nurses aid program in school, where we were monitoring students' health, not in a classical clinical setting or hospital setting, but still the eyes and the ears for the school nurse when they were not around. And during that time, I also became aware and enjoyed working with technology, which was very much emerging at the time 25 years ago. So personal computers were new, office productivity software and applications were just beginning to be developed and taught in schools. And actually, many times they weren't being taught in school at all. So I gave it deep consideration and really felt I had to make a choice between two paths to the profession, whether it be nursing or technology, to focus my college career and profession on. So my journey began, and I chose nursing because I thought it would be a longer lasting career. But I never dreamed that one day I'd be able to do my favorite things, nursing and technology, in something known as health IT. So why did I choose to be a nurse working in technology, and what excited me so much about that was that throughout my time in direct patient care, my fellow nurses and I experienced many inefficiencies, which directly affected productivity and patient outcomes. So a desire to transform practice began early in my nursing career, and I realized I wanted to move into a non-clinical professional role away from the bedside to impact health and wellness from a different angle. I made a career change to better care delivery and processes for the nurses I was working with and clinicians. And when I discovered that I could be a nurse and use technology to improve efficiencies, I made a transition into the specialty of nursing informatics, which was a logical and exciting choice. And it's been so rewarding and satisfying 25 years later. And my professional career has taken many twists and turns, moving from traditional nursing roles to private sector nonprofit, health IT vendor, and even startup environments. I learned about computer coding, data analytics, intelligent technologies in those settings, and how they could dramatically improve nursing care and operations. And that work led me to discover a lack of understanding by nurses about what informatics was and what even health IT was, and certainly data analytics and innovation and new technologies. And I saw an opportunity to fill that void. So why did I start my business, Nurse Evolution? Because my mantra is, I want to do things no one else has ever done before. And I feel that should be a mantra for nurses as well. I founded Nurse Evolution in response to seeing how technology and data can make people healthier and have better outcomes and experience, and a better outcomes and experience for nurses. And to do this, my purpose was to teach nurses how to expertly use high-tech data analytics and innovation concepts to create what's next in nursing care and administrative processes. I also collaborated with national nursing masterminds to write a textbook to help nurses better understand the new and latest technologies that help demonstrate our value in using technologies and how we're operationalizing them today. So my company, Nurse Evolution, guides nurses as an information center to really catalyze the digital healthcare landscape, to optimize individuals and communities' health, the patient and nurse experience, and advance nursing practice and the profession, with a vision to cultivate new ways of caring using healthcare technology. We have stringent values. They include futurism, to envision and harness technologies in new ways to promote wellness in all healthcare settings, the value of disruption and debunking the status quo to innovate what's next in nursing care and deliver and improve the profession. Also continuous learning to seek out the latest news, trends, and educational offerings in health IT and informatics, and involvement. Collaborate with nurse change makers to further healthcare initiatives for improved patient care. And that includes, as President Kennedy stated, getting involved with policy. And thought leadership, to contribute the nursing knowledge base and have all nurses share their wisdom to a wide audience of nurses in the health IT industry leaders. The Nurse Evolution website serves as a hub to share nurses and technologies expertise to advance the specialty and support nurses in the healthcare IT sector. We aim to help you understand the value you bring to critical healthcare IT projects in hospitals, clinics, nonprofit, vendor, startup, big IT, and now virtual settings and environments. I say the evolution starts with nurses' understanding of how new technologies, advanced data analytics, and innovation concepts work together. These arms are changing the processes and systems of how healthcare is delivered in an ever-changing healthcare landscape. And in that landscape, nurses are well-positioned change makers. Traditional nursing roles are transforming. It's never been more important to use for nurses to use technology, data, and creativity to improve practice, patient outcomes, and demonstrate their values on a global level. To be the next creators and owners of models, businesses, services, and products that are boldly disrupting healthcare. The future is now, and I say it's time to evolve. So why did I want to write a book about technology, specifically new technologies? After I founded Nurse Evolution, I edited a textbook called Emerging Technologies for Nurses, Implication for Practice, to help nurses appreciate how data and nurse-led innovations in healthcare IT can generally better manage patient populations, lower healthcare costs, and improve the patient and nurse experience. Writing is my favorite thing to do, and you'll see that on the screen there. I don't only do it on a computer, but I do it by hand as well. And today I encourage nurses to raise the voice and visibility of nurses and technology, promote health equity, and develop policy in healthcare IT, and be courageous in their quest to discover their purpose and satisfaction in the industry and the nursing profession. The textbook, written by Nurses for Nurses, introduces all nurses in every practice setting to emerging data-driven advances in the technology industry that are just really beginning to get used in healthcare delivery and operations today, and will shape the future of nursing practice. It guides nurses to learn about new technologies. It has a section on big data, what it is and why you should care about it, artificial intelligence, virtual, augmented, and mixed realities, the Internet of Things, Precision Health, and Genomics, all new to nursing practice. The textbook provides vital evidence about how these new technologies are not yet available in the nursing literature. And the book has received the American Journal of Nursing 2020 Book of the Year Award in the Informatics category. More importantly, to scholarship and research and education, this text serves an essential resource for nurse educators at all levels. And the content will guide nurses to teach about nurse health information technologies in the classroom. It encompasses information nurses need to know, again, about data, technological advances, innovation work to add value to healthcare and nursing practice and help them to gain new knowledge. So to transition into digital health, I first want to say that during his first address to the United States people, our new president, Joe Biden, said, "Doctors want patients to live. Nurses help people live." The statement is never more true than it is today, and nurses cannot help patients live without the use of technology in practice, which is at the core of digital health. So what is digital health? It's large and encompassing and really brings us all together in a proactive way using technology. Digital health connects and empowers people and populations to manage health and wellness, and it's augmented by high accessibility and supportive care teams working within flexible, integrated, interoperable, and digitally enabled environments that strategically level digital tools, technologies, and services to transform care delivery. The use of technology is in full swing in aspects of our lives every day right now, including healthcare. And we're finding that our patients want to participate in their health and fully engage with clinical staff and providers through using and becoming more involved in their healthcare journey for better outcomes. A recent study in the United States found that 48% of patients that were spoken to wanted to be more involved in their medical care. And an excellent way to make this a reality is making healthcare technology available where and when patients are most comfortable and available, at home, work, or on the go. Because IT streamlines processes that support communication, convenience, cost containment, and leads to effective and high quality care that equates to improved health promotion. And it dynamically engages the patient, families, and the community. Connected care and digital health not only improve care quality, patient satisfaction, and reduce cost, but also fosters the well-being of nurses and clinicians and enhances the practice environment throughout a nurse's journey and a patient's journey. So there are three elements to digital health. The first is personalized healthcare delivery. It's that personalization of care that we give to individuals where they are the primary decision makers in managing their health and wellness. People choose the digital tools and technologies of their choice, such as PCs, smartphones, and other mobile devices, wearables, and patient portals that best suit their unique life circumstances and personalized approaches to healthcare. The second element is proactive risk management that focuses on care delivery that proactively identifies risks to health and wellness. It cues individuals and their provider team partners of the risks and strategy, again, to proactively intervene to prevent risk and sustain and strengthen progress towards patient health goals. It is that proactive care delivery that requires a transformational shift from siloed and broken, disconnected care to one where seamlessly integrated services enabling care delivery in digital ecosystem environments will really enable that person-centered, personalized care delivery to individuals and populations. And the third element is predictive population health programs, which I know was also mentioned by President Kennedy. whereby health system data is mobilized and robust analytic tools track population health outcomes to anticipate risks to population health. Examples of those are risks in health screening, gaps in chronic care illness, and also the risk of medical errors, and prescribe and inform program level strategies to manage and reduce risk to population segments focused on wellness and focused on health. So why should we focus on digital health as a society and as nurses? It's because technology is everywhere. Everyone gets sick and wants to focus to some extent on their wellness and preventative care. The new trends of consumerism and the focus on patient engagement and experience will lead us to increase in our shareable services in all industries, including healthcare, and the face of nursing will change, and using data to provide care will advance our profession. The focus of technology will be to work in tandem with further reaching capabilities to take challenges of health systems' desires to reduce those costs and improve care and community-based care to improve global health. There is a call for technologies and innovations to play a critical part in the continuation to develop, advance, and sustain digital health. In the case of healthcare consumers, which you see on the screen here, which is everybody, this is a steady clinical engagement with consistent, excellent experiences will not only satisfy the now economy expectations for all generations we're finding, but will also improve their long-term health by conscious choosing, for instance, regularly accessing care for health screenings and preventative visits, critical disease management, and essential care, for instance, with pregnant women and pregnancy care. And so why should we be laser focused on technology in healthcare today? Because today in healthcare, the entire workforce produces an immense fraction of the healthcare data. Today, the nursing workforce is 20 million globally nurses strong, nurses being the largest percent of practicing clinicians providing patient care. And in many countries, such as the United States, and I think globally, nursing has been named the most ethical and honest, trusted profession for 18 years consecutively, over doctors, clergy members, bankers, and politicians. And these facts about our profession and field equate to nurses touching patients the most and using technology more than anyone else in healthcare. So being the closest to patients and one of the largest groups of creators and capturers of data, who better than to use technology and our specialized knowledge and skills to impact digital health revolution that is existing today. And I think in the Q&A, and what President Kennedy also talked about was the transformation of roles that technology is going to bring on. And that's why nurses should really care about using technology in nursing and digital health. There are a growing number of roles and different roles in nursing to support digital health. As new technologies and automation kicks in, nursing roles will support them and evolve and intensify. So for this reason, nurses should educate themselves and acclimate to advancing technology and how to supplement and enhance their skills to stay relevant in a technologically innovative future. And staying relevant means using novel technologies appropriately at every turn where it improves care delivery, administrative processes, the workforce, and the profession. New roles such as nurse navigators, disease managers, care advocates, and wellness coaches brought on by the onslaught of new technology will allow nurses to change care delivery. And these non-traditional roles will enable nursing to have a greater focus on spending high value and more time with patients in clinics and community settings and population health programs, as was mentioned before, as we move to connect, engage, and retain patients in preventative health for long-term wellness. Committing to a transformation in roles brought on by technologies will turn nurses into the champions who fully digitalize healthcare. So there are two growing roles that are essential to forwarding and advancing digital health. The first is nursing informatics, as I saw somebody had a question about in the chat, and also nurse innovators and entrepreneurs. The first I want to talk about that are directly influencing and supporting the current and future state of healthcare are nurse informaticists. And you'll see on the screen here, these are my colleagues on the Health Information Management and Systems Society Informatics Nursing Committee. And we are committed to growing the specialty, influencing and supporting the current state, and again, the future of healthcare. And while it's not a new specialty in the profession, nursing informatics will be a critical catalyst of advancement of digital health. It integrates nursing and computer science and multiple informational, analytical, and cognitive sciences to identify, manage, and communicate data, information, knowledge, and wisdom in nursing care delivery. It supports nurses, consumers, patients, and interprofessional healthcare teams, and other key stakeholders in all roles and settings in their decision-making to really achieve desired outcomes in their practice. And successful use of information structures, information processes, and IT supports the fulfillment of our technology and practicing goals. There are both trained informatics nurse specialists and informally trained informatics nurses, and together they're known as nurse informaticists. They will advance the development, adoption, and implementation of innovations that catapult nursing into the future of healthcare, and further integrating care that improves that digital health connection, engagement, better experience of both patients and clinicians. So the essential role of the nurse informaticist, and reasons that as healthcare and technology were once separate entities and are now fused into one daily evolving language, these informaticists have become the translators changing into health IT innovators who establish businesses, manage medical economics, create technology, and amplify the voice of end user clinicians. So I want to talk about how nurse informaticists have had an essential role in digital health during the pandemic. COVID-19, of course, has underscored the crucial role of nursing informatics as healthcare organization has been facing and delivering care during these unprecedented times. And for decades, nurse informatics specialists have integrated nursing science and other sciences to identify, manage, and communicate data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. They are now advancing their focus beyond charting systems and successfully innovating changes as analysts, data and computer analysts, educators, software engineers, policy developers, and operational owners to help advance healthcare. And during the pandemic, nursing informatics specialists have played a key role in establishing new clinical workflows, increasing operational efficiencies, and improving care quality for patients, specifically with the implementation of virtual care and telehealth. They've improved, as I said, clinical workflows. So although telehealth was already in use at some healthcare systems, the COVID-19 pandemic accelerated the need for ambulatory, in-clinic, and inpatient virtual care visit consults. And in collaboration with program leaders, clinicians and information services departments, informaticists who understand current practice in clinic and hospital clinical settings have in many cases enabled health systems to accelerate telehealth solutions to keep patients safe and clinicians safe. They've translated virtual care technical and operational requirements, and started using and evaluating those core tools, developing project plans, and implementing and supporting these types of telehealth systems. Examples of some of the new technologies and workflows implemented during the pandemic have included solutions to schedule and virtually provide patient care. And also some health systems have also deployed smart devices for person-to-person connected platforms in telehealth. They've also created those operational efficiencies. They've collaborated to define requirements, design, build, and implement workflow and technology solutions. Informaticists as a part of the healthcare team is beneficial for health system leaders and other clinicians to promote the adoption of new processes, as nurses are often natural change agents, which I will talk about more in a little bit, and can enable change management in any workplace culture. With their background and experience in patient care, nurse informaticists recognize challenges and necessities collecting meaningful data to properly deliver care, especially in designing and building COVID-19 specific functionality in charting systems and other technology applications. They are using their skills to streamline specific infectious disease history documentation for quicker triage of nurses to patients. And this has led to the revamping of documentation systems, documenting in documentation systems, and screening patients for clinic on-site visits and entry to hospitals to really proactively and be ahead of identifying potentially infected patients, directing them to appropriate care, as well as limiting these patients from visiting facilities for face-to-face appointments to protect patients, physicians, nurses, and other patient care staff. So nurse informaticists have assisted in deploying healthcare, telehealth, and teleworking strategies also in the way that we are talking together today for hospitals to maintain operations and keep people out of hospital facilities as much as possible. And when executive leadership and informaticists are both on board to understand and define clinical workflows, errors and advanced adverse events can be avoided, resulting in significant cost savings during the rapid negotiation and execution of telehealth solution contracts that we make in our health systems. And improving quality care during the pandemic, nurses are critical.
10 dakika sürenizi hatırlatmak istiyorum. 10 dakika süreniz var.
10 minutes left, thank you. They play a critical role in implementing telehealth technologies designed to benefit patient, family, and patient connected platforms in inpatient settings. These technologies provide better patient experience with COVID-19 patients and family members when they're not allowed into patient care settings. Examples of telehealth technologies include the devices with video capability as we're using today to provide human interaction, and conversational agent intelligence solutions such as voice-controlled virtual care assistants to further our connectiveness with patient care staff and family. We've demonstrated as nurse informaticists, me being one of them, in the era of healthcare transformation, partnering with nurse informaticists benefit health systems in establishing new workflows, increasing operational efficiencies, and improving care quality. So this is my favorite part of the discussion, and I'll make it short. I'll try to make it short. The second role that will really move digital health into the future are the digital innovators. So the trend in healthcare is to advance, and technology calls for care to address this opportunity. And the current state of healthcare has led nurse innovators to focus on alternative models of care to be able to provide patients and clients with a higher quality care at more affordable prices and often quicker access. These high profile roles are continuing to merge, and more big IT companies will need nurse leaders who understand digital health and innovation concepts. They need to have a strong business acumen and possess a strong knowledge of full life cycle product development with a mix of nursing skills, which is most important, such as patient and policy advocacy, health promotion, disease prevention, education, research, and consultation. In the absence of formal education, training, or institutional support, nurse entrepreneurs and innovators typically have to build their knowledge base and is best practice in innovators. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about innovation quickly and how it is learned and how you already have it. When you have workarounds in your systems because your days in your unit are getting so crazy that you can't help but do workarounds to get your work done, they really put everyone at risk, resulting in errors, adverse events, near misses to patients, family, you, and your community. And while they're not the best option, in reality, workarounds that we use in practice are creativity in action. It's you inventing different ways to be productive in the best way possible and impact the timely care you need to provide in the moment to your patients. In workaround situations, I'll ask you to stop and realize that you've discovered a problem that needs fixing and that you can be the inventive change agent to do it. Identifying gaps in broken systems is an excellent starting point for you to begin to cultivate your nurse creativity. A chance to use nurse innovation to create different tools, policies, and processes that will improve in the work setting. So nurse innovation and health innovation really lead to problems that you recognize, seeing workarounds as opportunities, and opportunities leading to creativity. And creativity, I feel, leading to evolution. Now, nurse innovation can also be book learned. As I said, with nature, you can be more like an artist or a painter, but opportunities always arise for creativity. And when they do, have an awareness of when these situations surface and understand that you can create change and you can really learn how to do this. The need for a workaround is a perfect example of identifying a problem that needs fixing and an opportunity to solve a system, process, or policy issue, and invent a new tool or a new workaround in documentation that will improve and evolve patient care. There are strategies to do this, and there are creativity basics that are regularly used in specific specializations, but nurse innovation, again, can be nurtured. It can be encouraged, can be learned, and put into practice successfully in diverse clinical settings. And I'm happy to tell you that many universities are now offering students applied innovation specialties in nursing studies with a common thread that really combine technology, data, and creativity-based curriculums that trigger innovation and provide nurses with hands-on experience and design thinking projects. So my call to action to you today is to be change makers and nurse evolvers, harness your nursing skills, knowledge about technology and innovative thinking to advance what we know now as digital health. Embrace technology in nursing practice because you do it and you use it more than anyone else in medicine. You can make the biggest difference in patients' lives. Understand digital health and how it works in society to create patient-centeredness, that better connectivity and communication to focus on proactive health and wellness, and recognize no matter what, you are essential in your role. Always, always, not just during times such as the coronavirus pandemic. And as a nurse, it is time to be brave and bold, recognize where innovations are needed, and be risk takers to do things that nobody else has done before. So on this day, this week, this year, and always, I wish you safety, joy, peace, and success in your nursing journey as you move through school and into the workplace and the nursing profession. So I want to thank you for inviting me to speak today to all the university leaders, and happy Nurses Week to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Konuşmak isterseniz mikrofonunuz açık.
Sayın Vendi, konuşmanız için çok çok teşekkür ederim. Sanırım bitti. Sayın Wendy bize aslında dijital sağlığın ne kadar hayatımızda iç içe olduğunu, özellikle de pandemi sürecinde nasıl ivme kazandığını, kendisinin yaratıcılık gücünün peşine düştüğünü ve hakikaten hemşirelik evrimi kurucusu olarak da büyük işler başardığını bize kısaca özetlemeye çalıştı. Çok teşekkür ediyorum Sayın Wendy. Şimdi izninizle sorulara geçip sormak istiyorum.
Sure.
Şimdi Halil İbrahim Bilkay Bey bir soru sormuş. Teknolojinin gelişmesiyle gelecekte robot hemşirelerin yerimizi alacağına yönelik görüşler mevcut. Siz bu konu hakkında ne düşünüyorsunuz? İleride insanlar robot hemşireleri tercih eder mi?
My answer to that I always tell people is absolutely not. There is no way that smart robots that are driven by artificial intelligence algorithms will ever replace the empathy and caring of a nurse. If anything, they will take away the mundane tasks and inefficiencies and things that nurses don't like to do. And don't have time to do, such as cleaning rooms or straightening up rooms, to some extent, medication and food delivery and other things like that. It will create much more efficiency. Robots and automation will create more efficiencies, but they'll never take away jobs. And as I talked about with transforming roles, informaticists and innovators will be the ones who help to create those efficiencies with those types of robots, if you want to use that specific example, but also maintain them and sustain them and make sure that they are safe and invent them to help us in the way that we want to be. So I absolutely disagree that robots will ever take nurses away. We do far more, too much in caring, and a robot with wires and chips will never have that.
Teşekkürler. Şimdi bakayım tekrar. Şimdi Sayın Karol, öncelikle sunumunuz için çok teşekkür ederim. Seda Sarıköse sormuş. Hemşirelikte inovasyon ve yenilikçilik konusu ile ilgilenen bir doktora öğrencisi olarak hemşirelerin inovatif düşünme becerilerini artırmak için sizin yöneticiler ve araştırmacılar için kişisel önerileriniz nelerdir?
For researchers in nurse innovation, I would suggest that nurses study it more and do more research on it, because it's something that is emerging as a role. And if you do literature searches, you literally find almost nothing globally about nursing innovation. So we do need more scholarship and we do need more research in that. I would recommend that if you are interested in learning more about innovation, that you get involved with an innovation foundation or nurse society that can help you tactically learn the skills and concepts of innovation and help to be able to start inventing products and services and models, such as we talked about before, developing those robots or developing new different kinds of PPE. And you do those things through design learning projects and hands-on tactical, what we call hackathons. I don't know if you have those in Turkey or around the world. We have global hackathons in the United States where nurses come together for a weekend and they learn how to, they get together in groups and teams and they learn how to get together and decide what they want to invent. So they actually come up together with nurse innovations. And I showed you a slide of a virtual hackathon that goes on. So as a PhD student, I would suggest please, please, please research the subject more and more and produce literature and be a thought leader on innovation.
Sayın Wendy Carroll, belki burada şunu da vurgulamak lazım. Ülkemizde de İnovatif Hemşireler Derneği var ve gerçekten çok güzel hemşirelik bakımına hizmet edecek teknolojik ürünler geliştiriyorlar. Ben bu arada onlara da selam etmek isterim. Yani böyle bir derneğimiz var. Belki öğrencimiz bu dernekle bağlantı kurabilir. Teşekkür ediyorum. Şimdi tekrar sorulara bakacağım izninizle.
Sure.
Bu arada bazı görüşler var, onu da paylaşmak istiyorum. Siyaseten vekil çıkaramadığımız sürece hemşirelik mesleğimiz maalesef istendik değere kavuşamayacak demiş bir katılımcımız. Şimdi diğer bir katılımcımız Aylin Akça, Kennedy'ye çok sunum için teşekkür etmiş. Onu geçmiştik. Yenilere bakmak istiyorum, yeni sorular. Pardon. Bunlar öncekiler sanırım. Bir de şöyle bir soru var. Şeymanur Karabulut katılımcımız sormuş. Merhabalar, güzel anlatımınız ve deneyimlerinizi paylaştığınız için teşekkür ederim. Teknolojinin maalesef hala ulaşamadığı ülkeler ve insanlar mevcut. Bu süreci ulusal olarak nasıl hızlandırabiliriz?
Perhaps you mean globally to reach rural areas or underserved areas. As a country, what you can do is partner with technological companies that actually go out and do this work in areas where health equity is not possible. I have an example for you. There's a big IT company called Intel. And what they have done is they have gone out they have created a center in a hospital system and reached out to pregnant women in rural settings to make sure that they have a monitor strapped to their belly and that it is constantly monitoring and sending information back to that hospital so they can have alerts and reminders and push information. And they're able to tell those women who cannot be monitored by technology and patients every day that they need to come into the hospital if they're having an event or if it's time to deliver. But partnering with those technology companies and having those collaborations will give you the opportunity to get technology. And it's so common these days. And,
teşekkür ederim. Tekrar bakıyorum. Sizce inovasyonda hemşirelik olarak öncelikli alanlar nelerdir?
That's a great question. I think the priorities in innovation are two things. Ways to make the workplace more efficient and to help more productivity and reduce waste. I think innovation will help also in the inventions that we make for other nurses to help take care of our patients better. And I will put a third one in there. I think the COVID and the pandemic coronavirus has really taught us a lot about innovation and how quickly we can stand up technologies. And I think that's something in the future that nurses need to pay attention to in the way that we stood up telehealth and virtual care so quickly. So to have the ideas, focus on what efficiencies and what we can do for patients, and then move quickly to put them into place.
Teşekkürler. Yine Ayşe hocamızın bir katkısı olmuş. Bir robota şefkat duygusunu yükleyemezsiniz. Güncel bir konuydu. Teşekkür etmişler. Şimdi yine sanırım Aylin Akça öğrencimiz sormuş. Doktoradan yeni mezun olmuş bir araştırmacı olarak uluslararası inovasyon araştırmaları yapmak için sizlere nasıl ulaşabiliriz?
How can you reach me?
Yes.
Right here on the screen is my contact information and my email address. It's evolve@nurseevolution.com.
Teşekkürler Carol. Yine bir soru şöyle, Nur Sema Hanım sormuş. İnovatif hemşirelik geliştikçe hemşireliğin rollerinde büyük bir değişiklik yaşanır mı?
Was that as technology and innovation come into play, will we have a big change in nursing? Was that the question?
İnovatif hemşirelik geliştikçe hemşireliğin rollerinde büyük bir değişiklik yaşanır mı gibi sormuşlar. Hemşirelik geliştikçe
Okay,
sanırım
thank you.
hemşirelikle ilgili.
As nursing develops, absolutely. Some of the things I talked about were nurse navigators. As we start to use more automation and have more time and population health programs that are brought on by technology and digital health, disease managers, nurses who will work in population health, and even something that I'm really excited about is nurses becoming data analysts and being data stewards and really using the data, not just in research and scholarship, but in hospital and clinical settings to be able to get actionable insights from data real time that we're getting from all these technologies. I think that's a really exciting role that will transform and we will see more of in the future.
Teşekkür ederim. Son bir kontrol ediyorum. Atladığım, sormadığım bir şey var mı? Sanırım sorduk. İran'dan bir katılımcımız da bir internet adresi vermiş. Bütün katılımcılara sanırım. Sayın Vende, buraya kadar ben bütün soruları size sormuş oldum. Değerli katkılarınız için çok çok teşekkür ederim. İçtenlikle verdiğiniz cevaplar için.
Thank you.
Sayın Dekanımız, Sayın Sema Tersel katkılarınız var mı Sevilay Hanım? Soru ve katkılarınız.
And thank you very much for coming on and all the questions, all the answers. Highly intellectual.
Biz teşekkür ederiz. Gerçekten şu an 227 katılımcı sonuna kadar bizlerle birlikte oldu. Ben bütün konuşmacılarımız ve bu sempozyumu düzenleyenler adına bütün katılımcılarımıza teşekkür ediyorum. Konuşmacılarımıza da sempozyumumuzu burada kapatıyoruz. Çok çok teşekkür ederim.